Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 10, it is going to be coming out in a couple days, and as you would expect, there were quite a few WTF moments in the chapter, but one of the more interesting moments was when Boruto had his performance issues revealed, but this wasn't like, say, Rudis not being able to perform in the bedroom, but it was still a moment where both wished they could do more than what they were currently capable of doing. Whereas Rudy couldn't make Rudy Jr. stand ready to finish the job, Boruto is unable to participate in the battles that are currently ongoing in the manga between Sarada versus Hidari and Himawari versus Jura, which is why in today's newest Naruto Explained video, I wanted to have a discussion with you guys on why this is indeed the best case narratively for the story and why, from a craft perspective, this makes more sense than you might realize. So if you're somebody who's annoyed that Boruto's been put on the sideline, this video, it is geared towards you. Now, as a reminder, this is not the chapter review. Obviously, you can tell from the thumbnail, but gotta throw that out there because there are people who get confused. So the editor who does the 2 Blue Vortex reviews got the audio review last night, so expect the review on the 20th if we stay on schedule. I got the translation that I scripted the review, which as it stands right now, barring no changes, will be the second longest review I've done for Boruto Naruto Next Generations or Boruto 2 Blue Vortex in totality. I got the script double checked by Japanese speakers who gave the translation I used an 8 out of 10 for accuracy. So moving into the topic of the video, Boruto being written as being scared of his karma in this chapter to the point where he's breathing super heavy, he's got sweat on his face, he's holding his karma seal, trying not to allow it to spread, and he's telling Shikamaru that he's not going to engage in the battles that are going on because he needs to rest. And this is what I very strongly believe is one of the smartest decisions from a narrative perspective due to what it is that it offers, which is it adds a layer of mystery to a character that has previously come across as being this unstoppable mega Chad. When we came out of the time skip with Boruto stepping on Code's face and easily dodging Code's attack despite Code activating his karma seal, and we had Code fans where they were coping saying, but bruh, that wasn't enough to have Boruto scaling over Code, you're jumping the gun, despite Boruto doing so easily without any concern, which was an indication there was a power gap. We saw him continue to toy around with the people he was fighting by hacking around at the claw grinds with ease. He casually blew Code across the village and making that boy's legs do the woozy woozy after literally telling him that killing him would be easy. It wasn't until the awakened Shinju they took turns battling Boruto that we saw him appear to have a little bit of trouble with beings he told Code he needed to destroy now, while Code could still, quote, annihilate them, end quote. And Boruto, as the battle was going on, was looking to Code for help, but even then we all went, well, Boruto clearly isn't using full power because he isn't even using his karma seal. And even after that, he just continued to flex on Mitsuki and Kawaki without having to use his karma seal. However, making Boruto this strong in his base, it was creating what I like to refer to as the Son Goku problem, which the longer a series runs, the more likely it is to run into this problem. So it's where Dragon Ball got to a certain point, it's where Jujutsu Kaisen got too early on before it wrote Gojo out the story, where Toriyama had to start coming up with rather creative ways in how he was writing Goku out the story so as to not overshadow the other characters and allow for there to be real stakes in the fights and give them a chance to shine, to show off their growth. I'm going to keep that part very brief, but from King Piccolo saga all the way to the Buu saga in the manga, so roughly about 300 chapters, we saw everything from a secret training arc, BY Goku was kept out of fights, to a freaking heart virus, keeping him out the battles with the artificial humans, to only being allowed 1 day on Earth with the condition the more power that he uses, the faster the time limit runs out. So during that entire time he was fighting as a ghost, he wasn't able to use his full power against enemies he could have just outright destroyed. Boruto Naruto Next Generations has had this problem for a time. So if things got too crazy, Naruto, he was just a phone call away. And we saw it with the Byakuya gang arc in the anime where Naruto let Boruto and company attempt to handle the problem, and just when it seemed like the bad guy had won and gotten away, Naruto is shown flying across the scene without his feet ever touching the ground, curving in midair and appearing in front of the train in his chakra mode to stop what otherwise was a win for the bad guy. Even with Delta and Jigen and Ishiki, The thought that they could just press the Naruto button, it was in the back of everyone's minds reading those, but that only really worked with Delta since Jigen technically won, gave Naruto and Sasuke fans PTSD, and Kurama had to bust out Baryon mode, which robbed Naruto of his power as a Jinchuriki. Taking Naruto and Sasuke out is what made the Boro fight that much more interesting to read, because Sasuke was near death and Naruto was sealed away, which made the Momoshiki reveal that much more interesting. As the 48 Laws of Power talks about, use absence as a way to raise the prestige of something that is coming, that people are underappreciating. And here's the thing, that Momoshiki reveal in chapter 43, that never happens if Naruto or Sasuke would have been there, and if they were there, it doesn't hit the same. Well, Boruto himself right now, he's in that position, and that's why him being scared of his karma seal and not being able to control it, having to clearly exert effort to suppress the karma from spreading to a point that he's panting and he's sweating, which flying across the village is not going to leave Boruto that exhausted. And we see him telling Shikamaru he needs time to rest, and Kashin Koji's toad, it was clearly worried with that expression on its face. This one decision allows for Himawari to do the one thing that Kurama said, which is to put on her big girl panties and figure out a way to channel his power to use it properly. And she's got her cliche shonen character rage amp going on right now after Inojin helped Jura complete his award-winning sculpture called the Pasty Donut. This allows Sarada to continue her fight against Hidari and show off the fruits of her training and the benefit of the amp that she would have got towards Kawaki when it comes to her hate being what's fueling her chakra, because the stronger the emotions, in particular hate, the stronger the Sharingan grows, the stronger the Mangekyo Sharingan grows, and it opens up the door to see what her Mangekyo powers are, because Boruto's not there to crash in and save the day. If you decide to have class rep and Konohamaru do more than just stand around, this is your chance to accomplish something of significance with them. More importantly, from a narrative perspective, this allows for a very underrated aspect of good narrative crafting that a truly skilled writer understands how to use, which is creating an internal conflict that is strong and have an external conflict that directly pays off of it. On this thumbnail, you should be seeing Boruto crying like a baby in the most humiliating fashion ever, saying that he cannot save his younger sister, and that's a classic example of what I'm referring to. That's the whole reason we get custom artwork done for the thumbnails, so it can better reflect the topic of the video. So in this case here, his internal conflict is rooted in the fact that he cannot control his karma right now, and he's clearly scared of using that power. Hence, it might be a situation where something might have happened in the time skip, and that lack of control over karma is forcing a guy who wants to protect the village from the shadows be forced to hide in the very shadows itself, which is very ironic and funny. Unable to do the one thing he's been preparing himself for the last 2 years after he took up his master's sword and he vowed to continue his master's legacy. That just makes the specter of Momoshiki feel that much more real, without us ever having to hear his name uttered, which I don't believe we've ever even heard Momoshiki's name said once in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. Yet he has been very subtly placed into the minds of readers, again, using absence to build up a desire and appreciation for something. It's building up that anticipation to the moment where we eventually see Momoshiki in all of his glory for however long it takes him to have control of Boruto's body, and he's able to maintain control of Boruto's body. It makes any potential damage that he does it feel that much more earned and that much more worth it, while also adding more potential layers to the conflict of the Boruto versus Kawaki situation, because Kawaki's told in this chapter, hey fam, don't you even worry about Boruto. Now if Momoshiki takes over and does some kind of damage, it's going to have Kawaki and Kawaki fans saying if Thanos was right, then Kawaki was right. This changes how we have to view Boruto when he's fighting from now on as well, because we have two very consistent prerequisites where one of them, if they're hit, it can lead to Momoshiki being able to control Boruto's body. If his chakra drops below a certain point, Momoshiki can hijack his body until Boruto's chakra gets back to a certain level, and Boruto can then fight off Momoshiki for control if Boruto's mental state of mind is too imbalanced, i.e. his yin chakra, which is comprised of spiritual energy. Then if it's too imbalanced, then Momoshiki can hijack for a shorter period of time, like we saw in the past. And like when he was trying to gaslight Boruto and break him so that he could force him to go into despair so great that Momoshiki could maintain permanent control over Boruto's body. This is what makes you watch Boruto's fights closely, because you have to monitor both his chakra exhaustion from the way that he's fighting, which explains why he has to get as powerful as he is right now in base, and his state of mind. And that's the beauty of him having trained with Sasuke and Kashin Koji. Sasuke, he specializes in yin chakra. Kashin Koji is Jiraiya's clone. Jiraiya, someone who was better at yang related chakra, but Kashin Koji, he has shown a better aptitude for things yin related than Jiraiya ever did, and it stands to reason some of whatever training Boruto did with both of these men would have been yin related, which means a heavy dose of meditation to strengthen the mind and raise the yin chakra. There has been a tweak made to Boruto. The boy who used to look so invincible is now looking very much human and very much vulnerable, and I'd imagine as more time goes by, we're going to see more chinks in his armor, and that is a very welcome sight. It's a writing trope as old as the art of storytelling, that the truly great authors of classic stories, they've all mastered this element. On the surface level, you have conflict in the form of the protagonist versus outside forces. That can be something like society, it can be nature, it can be rivals, it can be enemies that the good guy has to beat up. It adds to the conflict by making open tension and suspension through the interactions, which in battle shonen, that typically comes when good guy makes bad guy's face go bam bam. But the internal conflicts, it adds to the depth and the complexity of the characters by showing them struggle with their fears, and the great writers, they find a way to play it off, and in particular play off of it as they continue writing the story down the familiar path. So for Western stories, oftentimes authors will use the hero's journey angle intentionally or unintentionally that Joseph Campbell writes about in his book called The Hero's Journey, that I recommend anyone who is interested in writing to check out that book. You owe it to yourself. But for Asian stories, you see an approach that the iconic stories Sun Wukong and the Journey to the West oftentimes took, which is not a direct retelling, but the symbolic steps of that journey, they're displayed in a lot of shonen. So in particular, you had Naruto and Goku and Ichigo, Natsu, Eren Yeager, Luffy, and now coming out of his infant stages, Boruto takes some of those similar steps. While I don't think we see Boruto sidelined forever, that's obviously never going to happen. They need to sell manga volumes. I do think the story pulling a Dragon Ball approach where we see Boruto and he shows up after other members of the main cast have had a chance to shine, and we've had expectations subverted a couple of times, that's going to be the right move to make, because it builds your main character as that much more of a mighty force to be reckoned with, and it makes your readers appreciate their power more. Again, the chapter review will likely be out on the 20th, and in terms of review, to restate, we went over the budget for this one. It's nearly 30 minutes long because there's quite a bit to cover, making this review the second longest of any manga review I've done here on this channel, and the third longest manga review I've done on any of my channels. I think the longest one I've done is on my One Piece channel, where I have like a 40-minute review back during the All Along Park era. In the meantime, click here to watch my Jujutsu Kaisen chapter review, or click here on the right for this Naruto Explained video that YouTube says that you will best enjoy.